Welcome to Mining the Riches of the Parsha. Tonight is Thursday night, July 24th, 2025. Thank you very much, Michael. I appreciate it. And I am thrilled to be with you. I've been waiting all week to be able to share this with you, and I thank every one of you for setting aside the time to be here tonight. Vayidaber Moshe el Roshei Hamatos L'vnei Yisrael Lemor. At the beginning of our Torah portion, this Torah portion is a double parsha, Mattos, Massai, and with this portion we will conclude Sefer B'Midbar, the fourth book of the Torah. Moshe said to the heads of the tribes as follows: Ish ki yidar neder l'Hashem, o hishava shvuah le'asor yisar nafsho. A person who makes an oath or a promise, lo yachel dvaro. He should not make his word yachel. I'm not going to translate that right now. Let's leave it untranslated. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. But don't make your words yachel. Rather, k'chol hayotze mipiv yaseh. Every word that comes out of your mouth, you should fulfill. You have to keep your word. Now, the simplest meaning of those words, lo yachel dvaro, is don't break your word. Keep your word. If you make a promise, if you make an oath, and it doesn't matter what language you use, but if you make a promise, don't break your word. The problem is that cannot be what it means, because the next phrase says, Kachol hayotze mipiv yaseh. Everything that comes out of your mouth, you should do. So that already tells us, don't break your word. What is lo yachel dvaro teaching us in addition or besides just keeping your word? So Rashi says, lo yaseh dvaro chulin. You should not make your word chulin. Now, the word chulin has many different meanings. It's related to the word chol, which means weekday or mundane. Chulin can also mean empty. Don't make your words empty. And the Talmud understands it this way. Lo yachel dvaro, don't make your words empty, meaning don't say things that do not have any meaning. That's different than don't lie or not fulfilling your word. Don't say things that have no meaning at all. Especially if you're going to make an oath using God's name. We are extremely hesitant. And we have a general rule. There is a section of Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law, that talks about nedarim, about oaths and promises and vows. And the first paragraph says, don't swear oaths. Because no matter how true you think it is, there's a chance that you might be taking God's name in vain. And that is a very serious sin. Now, don't make your words empty also means it is prohibited to say words that are unnecessary, even if they are true. That is also a situation of taking God's name in vain. If a person makes an oath and says the sun is shining, it's unnecessary because everybody can see that the sun is shining. And that is also in the category of taking God's name in vain. Even though you didn't say anything wrong, even though it's not that you're not fulfilling your words, but you're using words unnecessarily. Chulin means, one of its meanings is meaningless or empty. To say words that are meaningless or empty or have no meaning behind them, have no purpose to saying it, that's prohibited. I know a lot of people, maybe you do, that they simply have the habit that they must fill every silence with words. They just can't stand silence. And it doesn't matter what they say. It could be the most meaningless nonsense. It's just they can't stand silence. I know some people like this, like if you get in an elevator, they just can't stand that no one is talking. So they start talking. What are they saying? It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. Dr. Neil Postman, he wrote how applicable this is today in our society. He wrote, we are flooded with disinformation. Now that's different. That's lies. But not only in the form of lies, but in the form of noise. Out of place, scattered, non-relevant, superficial. Information that creates the illusion of knowing, but actually keeps us away from knowing. For example, during a TV news show, I notice this all the time and it drives me crazy. The participants are not granted the option to ask, what do you mean when you say so-and-so? Or when someone asks them a question, well, let me think about that for a moment. Or, I don't know. Did you ever see that on television? You don't see that on television. There is not much to show when we think. It's not good television when a person's thinking, but it's also a violation of lo yachel dvaro to just start answering a question immediately with whatever comes out of your mouth first. Thinking is not photogenic. In response to that, God admonishes us, lo yachel dvaro. Don't say empty words. It's not photogenic. If you're on TV and I ask you a question and you say, let me think about that for a minute, and you sit, you think, they're going to cut you off.
Photogenic means like it's appealing to the camera.
It's not appealing to the camera. And this is an important lesson, that words have value, words have meaning, words have impact, words have consequences. So don't speak false words, yes, don't speak false words, but also don't speak empty words. Don't speak if you have nothing important to say or significant to say. Our sages tell us that usually, and I would say by usually they mean 90% of the time, usually silence is best. If only we could learn that, the world would be a different place. First of all, we get rid of social media, and then we get rid of reality TV, and we get rid of most of the news shows. The world would be a better place. But I want to share with you a deeper meaning. This comes from a source, sefer, called Mishb'tzei Shlomo. And he says as follows. The word chulin, liyasid dvarav chulin, don't make your words chulin. Chulin, in Talmudic discussions, is in contrast to kodesh, to holy. So for example, in the laws of kashrus, there are 2 volumes of the Talmud that discuss the laws of kashrus. One volume is called Chulin. That's the volume that deals with kashrus that is not sanctified, shechting animals and slaughtering animals and salting animals and how to make things kosher. And then there's a separate volume that deals with zvachim. Zvachim, a zevach, means a sacrifice. The special way in which animals that are to be sacrificed have to be handled, have to be cared for, have to be taken care of. There are many, many details. Two separate subjects. Chulin means something for personal use. Zvachim means something for a korban, for a holy purpose. Now, there is a primary rule. When we learn about things that are mundane, chulin, and things that are kodesh, holy, there is a fundamental rule, a primary rule, and that is whatever has been sanctified as kodesh, as holy, may not be used for chulin. It can't be used for mundane purpose. If you designate an animal for a korban, you can't take it back to your field and let it pull your plow. There's nothing wrong with chulin. Chulin is not bad. Chulin is how we live our lives. But to take something that is holy and, for example, to put it into a non-holy vessel, that's prohibited, because you're taking something that's holy, you're now putting it into a non-holy vessel. You have defiled the holiness of the object, whatever it was. Likewise, to take an object that is holy, I said that the opposite way. To take an object that is mundane, it's normal, regular, from your kitchen, and to put it into a utensil that is sanctified, used in the Bet HaMikdash, that is also prohibited. Because the non-holy item defiles the utensil into which it's placed, and vice versa. So, lo yachel dvaro, according to Mishb'tzei Shlomo, means don't allow your words to be chulin, because the receptacle of your words, the utensil that holds your words, which is your mouth, is holy. It is, to use the language of the Talmud, a kli shares. A kli shares is a utensil that's used for holy items. If you have something that is sanctified and you're putting it into a utensil, you can only put it into a kli shares. A kli shares is a utensil that can hold something that is sanctified. But what that means is that you, every single one of you, is so holy, so connected to God, so capable of sanctity, that you should be incapable of contact with something that's mundane, with something that's non-holy, because you are holy. That's the meaning of lo yachel dvaro. Don't let your mouth, yourself, which is holy, become a vessel for something that is not holy. It's a statement about the grandeur of a person, of man and woman. Every one of us is a kli shares. We are a holy vessel. And we must see ourselves as holy. And we must see ourselves as connected to God at all times. And therefore, we should be unwilling to defile our holiness with non-holy words. I think I've shared this story with some of you before, but it's really an incredible story. Many times I've quoted to you the great, late Rabbi Dr. Abraham Twersky. He was a great scholar, a great teacher, great Torah scholar, and he was also a trained psychiatrist. And for much of his working career, he was involved in treating people with drug and alcohol addictions and other kinds of addictions. So he writes as follows. Perhaps the greatest single challenge facing parents is to raise their children with values. What's right and wrong, while at the same time promoting the development of positive self-concept, self-esteem, and not making the child feel he is bad if she has done something wrong. That is a real challenge the parents face. This requires discipline, and discipline demands that a child be made aware that some things that the child has done are unacceptable. But how does one do this without making the child feel somehow bad or guilty? So listen to this. He says, I want to share with you a childhood memory. One of the few memories I have of being disciplined by my father for something for which he disapproved. And I remember that when that happened, he would say to me in a quiet, firm, no-nonsense voice, Es passt nicht. It does not become you. The message was clear that I knew that it was something that I was not supposed to do, but it was only many years later when I appreciated the full understanding of what it was that my father was really saying to me. Because Es passt nicht means that I was too good for that. This is not fitting for you because you're too good for that. It's the opposite of a put down. There was no mention that what I'd done was inherently bad or wrong, but that what I was doing, the emphasis was on me. I was a person who was so important, so holy in my father's eyes, that that was not appropriate for me. And then he adds the following. And he adds this now with decades of experience in treating people with drug addictions. And he writes as follows. Today I sit in my office, and a young man or woman of 16 or 17 is brought in for treatment for a drug abuse problem. Questioning elicits that for several years, this beautiful child has been putting these harmful substances into their body. And so he asks them, tell me, what would you do if you were working in the kitchen and accumulate garbage? Where would you put the garbage? They have kind of a puzzled look. And they say, well, I would put it in the garbage can. Of course. Where else? And then I say, tell me, my child, how is it that you have been putting all of this drug garbage into yourself? And he writes, it has never failed. Usually the tears well up, and these lovely children tell me that they never felt good about themselves. That essentially they never saw anything inappropriate in putting what they knew to be garbage into their own bodies. That's lo yachel dvaro. Don't say something false. Don't say something empty, because you are holy. You are capable of excellence. You are above misusing words as pasnished. You're too important for it. And that's the deepest meaning of lo yachil dvaro. Let's go to another subject. Let's take a hypothetical commercial discussion. Let's say you hire a horse to take you from one place to another place. And the horse is taking you, and the horse, nebuch, the horse dies halfway. Do you have to pay the half of the rental price for how far the horse took you? Let's use a modern example. Let's use a rental car, okay? You rent a car to drive from Montreal to Toronto, and the car breaks down in Kingston. So do you have to pay the car rental from Montreal to Kingston? Because at the very least, the car did take you from Montreal to Kingston. So the Talmud asks this question about the horse, not the car, but same thing. The Talmud asks the question, and the Talmud says as follows. If there is another car in Kingston to take you to Toronto, then you have to pay the rental fee from Montreal to Kingston, and then from Kingston to Toronto. If it turns out that by having to pay 2 rental fees, you're going to end up paying more than you would have had to pay if it was only 1, then you have a claim against the rental car company, and you have a claim to tell them that they should deduct that extra amount from the cost of Montreal to Kingston. Okay. But if there is no car in Kingston and you're stuck there, then you do not need to pay for the car from Montreal to Kingston. Because what good does it do me to be in Kingston? I don't want to be in Kingston. I want to be in Toronto. Getting me to Kingston, it would have been better if I would have stayed at home. I don't need to be in Kingston. And therefore, in that case, I do not have to pay even for the first half of the rental, because getting me from Montreal to Kingston didn't do me any good. Unless you get me to my destination, I have no interest in being stuck in Kingston. Rav Aharon Lichtenstein explains this as follows. This is because if a person has a trip for a specific purpose, I'm in Montreal and I need to go to Toronto. I'm not just a tourist stopping off at every town. I have a business I have a need to get to Toronto. So the truth is, I don't need any stops. Okay, I may have to stop for coffee, but I don't need to be in Kingston. The stops don't do me any good. I just need to get to Toronto. And that's why if there's no car from Kingston to Toronto, I don't have to pay for the car from Montreal to Kingston because it didn't do me any good. Says Rav Aharon Lichtenstein, the journey of the Jewish people through the desert for 40 years was not this kind of a journey. In this week's Torah portion, the beginning of the second Parsha, Massai, Elem Massai B'nai Yisrael. These are the travelings of the Jewish people through the desert. And then, we have a long passage where we mention every single place that the people stopped. They stopped in Ramses. They stopped in Sukkos. They stopped in Asam. They stopped in Pihachiros. They stopped in Mara. They stopped in all these different places. What do I care? Why do we need to know? The purpose of the journey was to go from Egypt to Israel. What do I need to know all the places they stopped? Rav Aharon Lichtenstein explains that if the purpose of the journey from Egypt to Israel was only to arrive in Israel, there would be no need for us to know all of these intermediate stops. I don't need to know if they stopped at Asam or Piachiros. As far as Asam or Piachiros, they'd be better off staying in Egypt. What do they need to be in Asam or Piachiros? I don't even know what's there. That's not the journey they took. The journey the Jewish people took was al pi Hashem, by the command of God. And since the journey was at the command of God, that means that each place that they went had a purpose. There was a reason to be there. Every moment of every day, every station along the way is significant and makes its own contribution to the final arrival of the Jewish people. It would not have been the same to arrive in Israel without having stopped at Piachiros or any of the other place. And that's because we know the events that happened there at each place, and we know there were mitzvos that were taught at each place. They make that intermediate destination worthwhile on its own. We express the same idea on Pesach when we sing the famous song Dayenu. Dayenu, if you would have took us out of Egypt, but not brought us to Sinai, Dayenu, been enough. Now, we all know that the purpose of leaving Egypt was to get to Israel and to build the Bet HaMikdash, the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. We know that that's the fulfillment of our national identity. But had we wandered in the desert for 40 years without eventually entering the land, Dayenu, that in itself would be sufficient reason to praise God, because the journey itself is important. It's not only the final goal. And that is why in our Parsha we commemorate, we celebrate each journey, each resting place, each stage was important in its own right and its contribution to the development of our nation. And the reason that we emphasize this in our Torah portion is because this principle applies to life also. It applies to every one of us. On the one hand, we see our lives as hopefully leading to a destination, to Olam Haba. We should live a life, and when at the end of the life, we should enjoy the world to come and be rewarded for all eternity. But that's not correct. What if a person does not attain that? Does that mean that they lived a life that was completely meaningless? No. Every single act is important on its own, even if we do not ultimately reach a final destination. Just by the way, Moshe Rabbeinu did not reach a final destination. Would anybody say that Moshe Rabbeinu's life was meaningless because he didn't reach the final destination? No. Every single thing that he did was significant. Every single place that he was significant. The Kotzker Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Mendel of Kotsk, explains about our passage that these were not just points on the map where we stopped along the way. Wherever we stop on our journey through life has significance, whether that stop is marked by success or failure. Wherever or whatever we pass through teaches us something. And he summed it up, the Kutzker summed it up as only the Kutzker could. He said, I am never on the road to anywhere, since I am always there. We have to know in life that it's not only the final goal that is important. The journey toward the goal is also important, and the tools that one uses to progress from one place to another. And this is communicated to us by the Eila Massai B'nai Yisrael. Okay. I want to share one last subject with you. We find ourselves in the middle of the 3 weeks leading to Tisha B'Av. This Shabbos is Rosh Chodesh Av, the first day of the Jewish month of Av. That means that the behaviors of mourning increase as it leads up to Tisha B'Av. There's a novel that I like very much. I recommend it to you. It's called The Winners by Frederick Backman. It's a wonderful, wonderful novel. And there's a quote from this novel. This hurts too much to touch with words. Our preoccupation with Jerusalem and Israel in these 3 weeks, intensifying as they will with tomorrow night, the beginning of the 9 days, and then Tisha B'Av, is like that. It hurts too much to touch with words. I spoke about this on Shabbos, how difficult it is to put into words. Our national day of mourning for the destruction of the temple and for everything else that happened, which occurs a week from Saturday night, Tisha B'Av. It hurts too much to touch with words what it was, what it meant to us, what its destruction did to us, what we miss. And this is what we grapple with during these days culminating in Tisha B'Av. And then, after the saddest day of the year comes the Shabbos of Nachamu, the Shabbos of consolation, of comfort. It's too much to touch with words. So I have found another medium, which I think, at least to my mind, perfectly conveys the complexity and the ambiguity and the mystery of Jerusalem, the destruction we still see and feel, and the redemption that we also see and feel, especially now. There is great beauty, and there is also great fragility. Now, I have to apologize because I put some booklets on the table, and the booklets are photos, but they're just photocopies of photos. They're not in color. They really do not convey what I'm trying to convey. For those of you on Zoom, I'm going to share my screen, and you're going to see them in color. If you would like to come up and stand behind me while I do this, you'll be able to see my screen, and you'll see the vividness of the color. Or if you want to come up afterwards and see them, either way. But I apologize because I did not have a way. Just come around the back. I did not have a way to be able to to provide them for you in the full color. So I'm going to show you a number of photos. Okay, now, if you can see this, if you're on Zoom, if you can see this, the photocopy is just terrible. But what you'll notice is that there is this great beauty of these leaves, the bright green leaves, but they're set in the stone, the harsh, hard stone. And I think to myself, the contrast between the fragile leaves, which, by the way, I'll show you in a moment, they're blown glass, set within this setting of hard, harsh stone. Now, it's hard to see in this photo, but this is a single installation in the courtyard of Migdal David. Migdal David is the Tower of David. It is in the old city of Jerusalem. It is near the Jaffa Gate. And by the way, it was recently renovated and it is magnificent. If you haven't been there recently, please, you must see it. Now, this is the work. The leaves are blown glass. It's the work of Dale Chihuly. Dale Chihuly is an artist you may know. Let me show you this. Let's see how I can get this. One second. Where did I go? Where did I go? Oh, share. Now you may recognize this. So this is a Dale Chihuly, and this is a piece that was installed in Montreal, in front of the museum on Sherbrooke. And that piece is brought back out every summer. I haven't seen this year, but it should be there. And it's just, imagine, this is all glass, but it's just this amazing, bright sun in front of this museum. Now, and this comes from a few years ago, there was a Chihuly exhibit at the MFA, and this piece, the sun, was on exhibit outside the museum. And this piece became so beloved that it comes back annually over the years. And it's just incredible to see. Now, I first saw Chihuly's work in Jerusalem in 2000. It's 25 years ago. And I saw it in a monumental exhibit at Migdal David, at the Tower of David. And I want to show you some of the photos. I'll show you now some of the photos. You know that there's this large courtyard in the Tower of David, and you know there are events at night, but look at how it's lit, and look at how the stone, the ancient walls, and then you have these installations that are so fragile and so beautiful. This is one during the day, where again you see the stones piled up, and then you see this tall blue structure, all of glass. And then here also, it's like unexpected. It's like wherever you turn, there's something else there. And these are also blown glass. Show you another one. This is a closer up of that one. And you see the scale. This is Dale standing here. And you see this, this dramatic piece with beautiful colors against just the stone, the Jerusalem stone. To me, it's just incredible, incredible. Let me show you just a couple more.
Is the artist alive?
Yes, yes, he is.
Chihuly.
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 This is another piece. He's standing next to it. Let me show you. 6. Let me get to 7 and 8 and 9.
Chihuly.
Chihuly. This is in one of at night. You see the stones and it's completely dark, and then this bright lit glass blown piece. It's just amazing. Just two more. With lights. This is at the entrance. When you come into the entrance and there's this little opening, it's kind of a dome, like where you buy the tickets. It's the entrance. And there's a little dome, and this is hanging there, and it just illuminates the whole room. It just, the light reflects. It's just incredible. And last one.
The website is dedicated.
Yes. And let's see, number 9, just the last one. Just look at the surprise of seeing these stones, and nestled in the stones are these fragile glass balls. It's just, it's so unexpected. Yeah, but contrasted with the stone, I just find it incredible. Now, by the way, you should know that exhibit holds the world record for the most visitors to a temporary exhibit. It was a not to miss monumental exhibit. And it moved me deeply in 2000, seeing the modern fragile glass set among the ancient stones of Jerusalem. The contrast, yeah, I'm sure, much. The contrast of history and modernity, the fragility of beauty set amidst the hard, harsh stones. And that captured for me, visually and emotionally and spiritually, the essential truth of Jerusalem. Yes, its contradictions, its potential up against its reality, the challenge it forces us to confront. And I felt that this was a way to try to communicate all of these contrasts, all of these ambiguities about the meaning of Jerusalem. Now, I want to share something else with you. There's one person today who, in my opinion, comes close to putting this into words. Her name is Sarah Tuttle-Singer. I've quoted her to you many times. She was born in Los Angeles. She made Aliyah. She's raising 2 children in Israel, and she is living and writing in Jerusalem. So I'm going to tell you just a couple of stories. 10 days after we landed in Israel, my son got really sick. We went to the clinic. They sent us to the ER. The doctor said it would be prudent to keep him overnight in the hospital. There were 2 other women in the room with me, a woman with her head covered who was saying Tehillim, Psalms for her sleeping child, and a woman from Belarus who was listening to Russian rap music while holding her weak child. I've spoken about this before. Hours in a hospital are meaningless. And we measured time by the doctor's rounds and what food appeared on the plastic trays. We understood without words, but with tired smiles, that whoever's child was sleeping was in charge of getting coffee for the rest of us. And so we rocked our babies in that little room while we waited for the next doctor's visit or the next meal. And Sarah writes, Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh Lezeh. All of Israel is responsible for one another. This was said by the young woman from Belarus. And the religious woman nodded, yes, and handed us a cup of water. She writes that she and her son was released before the other two mothers and their babies. And the day after I went back to the hospital with soda and chips and cookies for them, they were still there, stuck in that little room with their children. It was a humbling perspective to have. We were outside the hospital walls while they were still there waiting for fevers to break. Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh Lezeh. All Israel is responsible for one another. They would have done it for me. You know, this phrase, Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh Lezeh, every Jew is responsible for every other. We can say it everywhere. We do say it everywhere. But we really live it constantly in Jerusalem. Another story. She writes, Sarah Tuttle-Singer writes, the old city of Jerusalem, truly this is my happy place. I love the people, so many people, exquisite, fascinating people, a river of faith and fabric flowing past. And I just sit and bask in the blessed humanity of it all as it washes over me. I remember once a guy next to me passed out cold on the ground. Not from too much drink, but from a sudden drop in blood sugar. He lay there pale and still while his friend shouted for something sweet, and no joke, 3 shopkeepers came running, 2 religious Jews and an Arab, one with mangoes, one with watermelon, one with fresh orange juice. And she writes, that's the thing about Israel. People care. They care and they show up. It's one reason why when someone asks me what I love best about Israel, I can answer without hesitation. The people. She writes, here's the thing you need to understand about Jerusalem. She is alive. She cannot be conquered or controlled. She may let you think that you're in charge for a little while, but no one could rule her for real. Just look at history if you don't believe me. She brings mighty armies to their knees. Empires have crumbled clutching her. But if you know this about her and embrace her and you let her lead, you can be there and enjoy the days with her. But don't mess with her, or she will cleave you in two and spit you back out and leave you empty and to rot out there in the desert. She writes about her experience of living in the old city of Jerusalem. I'm not harassed or heckled or spit on or threatened. I just am. And here's how it works. I say hello. People say hello back. I ask them how they're doing. They ask me how I'm doing. I respect them. They respect me. I watch their backs. They watch mine. Because we all have to live with her, with Jerusalem of stone and blood and all her compulsions and all her moods. And I'll tell you a secret I've learned already. She is absolutely lovely when we are good to each other in her wild embrace. That's the mystery of Jerusalem. The fragile glass set in ancient rough stones. One last story. A few years ago, Marcy and I were visiting Israel. We were walking through the neighborhood of Nachlaot. You may know it. Beautiful old neighborhood. And Marcy, she got her leg was sore, her foot was sore. And I had had the same problem in the same spot in my foot years before. And I knew a stretch that would help her. So we stopped, the two of us, Marcy and I, and we leaned against this ancient stone wall, and we were stretching our legs side by side, standing like this against the wall. A woman came behind us, and she said, "Thank you for holding up Jerusalem." And we said, "It's our pleasure." This is what I can do. This is what Sarah can do. This is what Dale Chihuly can do. This is what every one of us must try to do, especially now. Different ways of holding up Jerusalem. My friends, I wish you a beautiful evening and a great Shabbos. And I look forward to seeing all of you soon in person.